The great hall smelled of roses and waxed floors. Glittering chandeliers poured light across a sea of brocade gowns, jeweled hairpieces, and the stiff smiles of nobles who had long ago learned the art of pretending. I stood among them, silent, invisible, just as I always had been. My fiancé, Lord Edwin Claymore, laughed with the daughter of Marquis Beltran, his hand brushing hers as though it had every right. He didn't notice me watching. He never noticed. I told myself it was fine. I told myself it had always been fine. 14 years of love, one-sided, foolish love, had taught me to survive on scraps. A glance. A polite word. The smallest acknowledgement. I had spun those crumbs into entire meals, desperate to believe I mattered. But tonight, the truth pressed like a blade against my throat. I should marry Lady Beltran instead, Edwin said when he thought no one could hear. His voice carried a low murmur as he leaned toward her fan. Olivia is dutiful, but dull. She wouldn't dare refuse me if I abandoned her tomorrow. Her family would shove her back at me regardless. Lady Beltran tittered behind her fan, eyes sparkling with cruel delight. My chest hollowed out. I waited for the familiar sting of tears, but none came. Instead, a cold clarity settled in, heavier than any grief. 14 years of dreaming, and I had never once been loved. I slipped away before anyone noticed. My parents stood near the center of the hall, smiling at some duke's joke, basking in the prestige of their connection to Edwin. Neither of them looked at me. Not once. Not even as I walked past them. I'd been nothing more than a bargaining chip to them. A quiet, obedient daughter who made no demands, caused no scandals, and smiled when she was told to smile. The grand doors closed behind me, muffling the chatter and music. For the first time in years, I breathed. Outside, the evening air was sharp, cutting through the fog of my illusions. I walked aimlessly through the quiet streets beyond the palace, shoes clicking against the cobblestones, tears finally threatening but refusing to fall. 14 years wasted, I muttered. I'm such a fool. Strange, a deep voice answered from the shadows, smooth yet carrying a faint rasp, like someone who had lived on battlefields. A lady dressed like you shouldn't be wandering the streets alone. I stopped. My heart thudded. He stepped into the light of the nearest lantern, and the world shifted. Broad shoulders draped in a dark military coat, medals gleaming faintly against his chest. His hair was dark, tousled by the wind, and his eyes, steel gray, sharp enough to pierce straight through me. Recognition jolted me. The Grand Duke of Vikander. A war hero. I'd glimpsed him once at the victory banquet, seated apart from the frivolous nobles, his expression unreadable as generals toasted his name. Few dared approach him, and fewer still could claim to know him. And now he was here, watching me as though I mattered. Your Grace, I whispered, curtsying instinctively. He raised a brow. You know me. Everyone knows you. Yet I don't know you. His gaze lingered, unsettling. Not with cruelty, but with curiosity, as if he were cataloging each detail of my face, the tremor in my voice, the way my hands curled in my skirts. Embarrassment pricked my skin. I should go. Wait. His voice deepened, firm but not unkind. Tell me. Why does a lady leave a banquet with such eyes? Such eyes? Eyes that have given up. I froze. He saw too much. Far too much. I'm fine, I lied. He stepped closer, the faint scent of leather and steel clinging to him. I have seen soldiers broken on the battlefield, lady. I know the look of someone who has lost everything. A laugh bubbled out of me, bitter, humorless. I haven't lost anything, Your Grace. To lose something, one must have it first. That earned me silence. His eyes narrowed, but not in judgment. It was something else, something softer. Then, shockingly, he bent slightly, lowering his voice. Then let me offer you something. A choice. A choice? He studied me with an intensity that made my stomach flutter. If you have nowhere left to go, no one left to hold on to, take my hand instead. My breath caught. Why? The word slipped out before I could stop it. Because, he said simply, you are the most precious one to me. I stared at him, uncomprehending. This man, this legend whispered about in every corner of the empire, was saying that to me? A girl her family ignored, a fiancé her betrothed scorned? I opened my mouth, closed it again. He smiled faintly. Not polished, not courtly. Just, real. I don't repeat myself often, lady. So think carefully before you answer. For the first time in my life, someone wasn't telling me what I owed. Someone wasn't reminding me of my duty. Instead, someone was offering me escape. And God's help me. I wanted it. The street lamp flickered overhead, painting shadows across the Grand Duke's face. His outstretched hand looked absurd, this man of war, this legend, asking me to take it. I hesitated, staring at the calloused palm offered so casually. My family's voice screamed in my head, don't shame us, Olivia. Be obedient. Don't embarrass the Claymore name. But hadn't obedience already stolen everything from me? I pressed my hands to my skirts, trying to steady them. You don't even know my name. He didn't flinch. Then tell me. Olivia. Olivia Wynthall. Olivia, he repeated slowly, like tasting a word he wanted to memorize. His lips curved into something dangerously close to a smile. Then you should know mine properly. Caelum Darius of Vikander. But since you already whispered your grace, we'll skip the formalities. His boldness unsettled me. No one at court dared to speak to me without measuring their words. Yet he acted as though I wasn't fragile glass, as though I wouldn't shatter at the first careless touch. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked the only thing I could, why me? Caelum's gaze swept over me once, piercing and sharp, before softening. Because I know what it is to stand in a room full of people and be alone. My throat tightened. Before I could think, my hand lifted, hovering over his. He caught it gently, his touch warm but firm, grounding me in a way I'd never known. The moment our hands connected, the air shifted. He didn't drag me, didn't command me, he simply walked beside me, leading me away from the palace gates, away from the chandeliers and hollow laughter. Each step echoed like a promise. We stopped at a modest carriage. Nothing ostentatious, though the crest of Vikander gleamed faintly on the door. A single driver waited, his expression betraying no surprise at his master's sudden companion. Caelum gestured. Get in. I stiffened. And if I don't? A corner of his mouth twitched. Then I'll have to walk you home and endure the scandal of an unmarried duke escorting a lady through the streets at midnight. The tease caught me off guard. My lips twitched. You'd endure a scandal? For you? His eyes glinted with something playful. Gladly. A startled laugh escaped me. It felt foreign, as though it belonged to some other girl. I climbed in. The carriage rocked gently as Caelum settled across from me, one long leg stretching too close. He didn't seem to notice, or perhaps he enjoyed watching me flush and tuck my skirts tighter. His eyes never left me. So, tell me what happened tonight. I looked away. Nothing happened. Then why did you flee with such despair? His persistence unnerved me. Nobles never asked questions they didn't already know the answers to. They preferred polite lies and shallow smiles. But this man, this war hero, demanded truth. My fiancé, the word curdled on my tongue. Edwin Claymore. I faltered. He doesn't love me. That much is obvious, Caelum said flatly. I snapped my gaze back to him. Obvious? You looked at him once during the banquet, Caelum replied, tone matter of fact. A soldier could spot such a gaze a mile away. Devotion without return. A dangerous imbalance. Heat rose to my face. You were watching me? I watch everything. His lips curved faintly. Old habits die hard. Silence stretched, thick and awkward. I clasped my hands in my lap, heart pounding. He wants to marry someone else. My parents don't care. They never have. Caelum studied me for a long moment. Then why cling to them? Why let people who never saw you dictate your life? The question struck deep. I had no answer. The carriage slowed, stopping before an unfamiliar mansion. Tall iron gates swung open silently. The Vikander estate loomed, dark stone walls climbing into the night sky, banners rippling with the crest of a silver wolf against black. My stomach twisted. I can't stay here. Can't? Caelum leaned forward, gray eyes locking onto mine. Or won't? I swallowed hard. Listen, Olivia. His voice softened. You've spent your life giving everything to those who didn't care. For once, let someone care for you. My pulse hammered. No one had ever spoken to me like this. He extended his hand again. One night. Stay. If tomorrow you regret it, I'll take you back. But if you don't, his gaze deepened, unreadable and magnetic. Then your new life begins here. I stared at his hand. At the man who had fought wars yet spoke to me as though my bruised heart mattered more than empires. And for the first time in 14 years, I wanted to gamble. I placed my hand in his. Inside, the estate was vast yet strangely warm. Not like my family's house, which was grand but suffocating. Here, the fire in the hearth crackled as if it burned just for us. The walls bore scars of battles, swords mounted with reverence rather than vanity. Caelum gestured toward a seat. Hungry? I hesitated. A little. He rang for a servant, then looked back at me, his eyes gleaming with humor. Do you always answer like a mouse, or only when you're with strange men? I sputtered. You're hardly a strange man. You're the Grand Duke. And you're Olivia. Which means we're even. His bluntness disarmed me. I covered my mouth, hiding another laugh that threatened to escape. Somewhere in the space between fear and freedom, I realized he wasn't just rescuing me. He was pulling me alive. Morning sunlight slipped through heavy curtains, painting golden streaks across the unfamiliar room. For a dizzying moment, I thought I had dreamed everything: the banquet, Edwin's betrayal, the man with steel-gray eyes who spoke to me as though I was precious. Then I saw the wolf crest embroidered on the coverlet, smelled the faint tang of steel and leather lingering in the air. It was real. I sat up, heart pounding. My dress from last night lay folded neatly over a chair. Someone had left a fresh gown beside it, simple but elegant, pale blue silk that shimmered faintly in the morning light. A knock came at the door before I could gather my thoughts. Olivia, came Caelum's voice, rough with sleep yet commanding even through wood. Are you awake? My cheeks flamed. He knows my name. He said it again. Yes, I called, my voice cracking. Good. Breakfast is waiting. Unless you prefer I bring it to you? The teasing lilt at the end made me sputter. I'll come down. I scrambled into the gown, my hands clumsy with the ties. A maid entered wordlessly to help, bowing once before disappearing. No chatter, no condescension, none of the silent judgment I'd grown up with. Just quiet service, as though my presence here was natural. Downstairs, the hall smelled of roasted meat and fresh bread. Caelum sat at the long table, hair slightly mussed, no medals or armor, just a plain white shirt rolled at the sleeves, showing forearms corded with muscle. He glanced up as I entered, and for a heartbeat, something softened in his gaze. Sit, he said simply, pulling out a chair himself instead of waiting for a servant. I sat. My fingers fidgeted against the napkin in my lap. You didn't have to. I did, he cut in. You're my guest. Guest. The word warmed me and chilled me all at once. How long could I remain here before reality demanded I crawl back? Caelum seemed to read the thought in my silence. He leaned back, arms folded. I meant what I said last night. If you wish, I'll escort you home today. The words should have comforted me. Instead, they hollowed me. I imagined returning to my family's cold smiles, Edwin's careless laughter, the same suffocating halls where I had been invisible for years. My stomach clenched. "I don't want to go back," I whispered. His eyes sharpened. "Good." The bluntness startled me. "Good?" "Because," he said, smirking faintly, "I dislike wasting my time." I gaped. "Are you calling me a waste of time?" "Not anymore," he replied smoothly, taking a sip of his coffee. "Now you're an investment." An investment?" He chuckled at my outrage, a low, warm sound that made my face heat. "Relax. It means you're under my protection now. Which means anyone who tries to harm you answers to me." I swallowed, the words striking deeper than they should. For once, someone wasn't threatening me. They were threatening on my behalf. Back at the Wynthall estate, my absence was barely noticed. "She's with a friend," my mother said vaguely when a servant reported I hadn't returned from the banquet. "As long as she doesn't bring scandal, leave her be." My father waved it off. "Edwin will complain soon enough. Then she'll come running home to apologize." Always so dramatic. Edwin himself barely blinked when told. "She'll be back. She has nowhere else to go." His lips curved in disdain. "Olivia has always been obedient. She won't last a day outside our leash." How wrong they were. By the third morning, I found myself laughing in Caelum's kitchens, of all places. He had caught me trying to pour tea, only for the heavy kettle to wobble dangerously. "You'll flood the entire hall," he said, plucking it from my hands with insulting ease. I was managing perfectly fine, I protested, flustered. If by managing, you mean nearly drowning us both in hot water." He arched a brow, lips twitching. "Do you even know how to hold a sword?" "Of course not." I snapped. "I'm not a soldier." "Clearly." He set the kettle down, poured with effortless precision, then slid the cup toward me. "Drink. Try not to spill." I narrowed my eyes. "You're mocking me." "Only a little." Despite myself, I laughed. The sound startled me every time, as though it belonged to someone I hadn't been allowed to be until now. That evening, as the sky turned crimson over the Vikander estate, Caelum walked me through the training yard. Soldiers sparred nearby, their salutes crisp when they noticed him. He ignored their awe, instead focusing entirely on me. "You should learn to defend yourself," he said. I blinked. "Me? With a sword?" He stepped behind me suddenly, so close I could feel the heat of his body. His large hand wrapped around mine, guiding it to the hilt of a practice blade. The contact made me stiffen. "Relax," he murmured, voice low near my ear. "I won't let it hurt you." A shiver raced down my spine. I was certain my face was burning, and from the faint smirk I glimpsed when I dared look, he knew exactly what he was doing. "Why, you're enjoying this," I accused. "Immensely," he admitted without shame. For the first time in my life, someone wasn't laughing at my weakness. He was laughing with me, drawing me into a world where I was allowed to stumble and still be seen. And in that moment, I realized, I wasn't just choosing freedom. I was choosing him. The practice sword clattered from my hand, skidding across the training yard. I bent to snatch it up, but Caelum's hand closed over my wrist, firm and unyielding. "Enough," he said. I looked up, cheeks flushed from both exertion and embarrassment. I was just starting to get the stance right. "You're trembling," he cut in. His thumb brushed the inside of my wrist, feeling the rapid beat of my pulse. "You push yourself too hard." Heat shot through me at his touch. I yanked my hand back, stammering, "Why, you don't have to hover over me like some watchdog." His mouth curved. "I'm a wolf, Olivia. Not a dog." I rolled my eyes, but my face burned. Later, I found myself wandering the halls of his estate, still catching my breath from training. I turned a corner and stopped. The door to his study stood ajar. Inside, Caelum sat with his shirt undone at the collar, maps and reports strewn across the desk. His broad shoulders were bent under the lamplight, scar tissue edged pale against tanned skin where the fabric gaped. I froze. I had never seen scars like those, long, cruel lines carved across his back, testament to battles survived but not forgotten. My breath caught. Without thinking, I stepped inside. The door creaked, and his head lifted immediately. Olivia? His tone sharpened, defensive. My voice faltered. Your scars. His gaze hardened, as though bracing for pity. Ugly, aren't they? No, I surprised us both with the force of my answer. I moved closer before fear could stop me. They're proof. Proof you stood when others fell. For a heartbeat, the wolf in him blinked, replaced by a man startled into silence. Then his eyes darkened, hungry and raw. Careful, he murmured. You say things like that, and I might believe you mean them. I do, I whispered. The air snapped between us, thick with something unspoken. He rose, towering over me, shadows dancing across his face. His hand lifted as though to touch my cheek, then stopped, trembling faintly. I've killed men, he said hoarsely. Hundreds. I'm not gentle, Olivia. You should know what kind of wolf you're reaching for. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. Then let me decide if I can bear the bite. His control shattered. In the next breath, his mouth crashed against mine. The kiss was rough, searing, nothing like the polite brushes of lips I'd once dreamed Edwin might give me. This was raw hunger, the taste of wine and steel and a man who had restrained himself too long. I gasped, my hands clutching at his shirt. His arms banded around me, lifting me against his chest as though I weighed nothing. When we broke apart, I was dizzy, lips swollen, breath ragged. Still not afraid? He rasped, forehead pressed to mine. Terrified, I admitted. But not of you. His laugh was low, almost disbelieving. He brushed a thumb across my cheek, gaze burning. Gods, you undo me. The next days blurred into something new, something dangerous and sweet. At breakfast, he teased me for spilling honey on my gown. Clumsy, he said, smirking as he dabbed at the stain with a cloth. You're insufferable, I shot back, but the heat in my chest lingered long after. In the training yard, he accidentally corrected my grip by sliding his hand over mine far longer than necessary. You're distracting me on purpose, I accused. Perhaps, he admitted, teeth flashing. At night, in the quiet of the library, I caught him watching me read. His eyes softened, as though memorizing every line of my face. What is it? I demanded self-consciously. Nothing, he said, leaning back with a smile that made my stomach twist. Just. I never thought the word home would look like this. My throat tightened. Bit by bit, the walls I'd built to survive my loveless life cracked under the weight of his presence. And when he kissed me again, this time slower, deeper, I didn't hesitate. I kissed him back with everything I had buried for years. Far away, the whispers had begun. The nobles gossiped in their salons. Did you hear? Lady Olivia vanished from the banquet with the Grand Duke. Impossible. Why would he bother with her? But the rumors spread like wildfire, reaching the Claymore family within days. At first, Edwin laughed. Let her have her little rebellion. She'll come crawling back when she realizes the Duke doesn't care for playthings. My parents nodded, unbothered. She always was quiet. She'll return once she learns her place. They never imagined the quiet daughter, the discarded fiancé, had already chosen freedom and a man who would never let her crawl again. The ballroom doors opened, and silence swept the hall. I stepped inside on Caelum's arm, the weight of every eye pressing down on me. For once, I didn't shrink from it. My gown shimmered the color of midnight, chosen by Caelum himself. His wolf crest gleamed at my throat, not as jewelry but as a mark of belonging. I had never worn anything so bold. And beside me, Caelum Darius of Vikander, war hero, Grand Duke, walked as if no power in the empire could touch us. His hand rested lightly over mine, steady, grounding, claiming. The whispers erupted at once. "Is that Lady Olivia Wynthall? She looks radiant. And with the Grand Duke." I felt their shock like heat against my skin. The same nobles who once overlooked me now stared as though they'd never seen me before. Across the hall, Edwin froze mid-sentence, the smile slipping from his lips. His eyes widened as he took in the sight of me, of us. "Olivia," he breathed, disbelief souring into anger. I met his gaze without flinching. For once, he was the one left voiceless. At the Wynthall estate, the news struck like a thunderclap. My mother nearly dropped her teacup. "Olivia, our Olivia, arrived with the Grand Duke?" "It must be a mistake," my father insisted, pacing. "She doesn't have the wit for such things. The Duke will tire of her soon enough." But even as he spoke, their voices quavered. For the first time in my life, they were speaking of me not with dismissal, but with fear. Fear of what they had lost. Meanwhile, Caelum seemed utterly unaffected by the storm he had unleashed. "You're enjoying this," I hissed as we crossed the ballroom floor, nobles parting like waves before us. His mouth curved in the faintest smirk. "Immensely. Do you have to look so smug?" "Yes," he said simply. I bit my lip to stifle a laugh, which only seemed to amuse him more. The evening blurred into dances and greetings, though Caelum only danced once, and only with me. He refused every other offer with the same curt words, "My partner is already chosen." Every time he said it, a thrill raced through me. Later, when we retreated to the garden, I leaned against the balustrade, heart still hammering. "Do you realize what you've done? They'll all talk." "Let them," Caelum said, standing close enough that his presence wrapped around me like armor. "You've hidden long enough. They should know who you are." "Who I am?" I whispered. His gaze softened. "The woman I choose. The one they never deserved to see." My chest tightened. I wanted to answer, but the words tangled in my throat. Instead, I reached for his hand. His fingers twined with mine instantly, as though they had always been meant to fit. Inside, Edwin's fury boiled over. "How dare she?" he snapped to his companions, parading around as if she belongs at his side. One of them raised a brow. She seemed to fit rather well, actually. The Grand Duke looked possessive. Edwin's jaw clenched. "He'll cast her aside. You'll see. Olivia has always been meek. She won't last." But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. For the first time, he saw the truth: I had never been meek. I had simply never been allowed to shine. And now that I had, he realized how thoroughly he had lost me. The weeks that followed only sharpened their regret. Every gathering, every banquet, every whispered rumor carried the same theme: Olivia Wynthall, once invisible, now radiant beside the Grand Duke of Vikander. My parents tried to summon me home. Letters arrived, full of false concern. "We miss you. We only want what's best for you. Come visit, bring the Duke, of course." I left them unanswered. Edwin cornered me once, daring to confront me at a luncheon. His hand caught my wrist, his voice low and desperate. "Olivia. You can't mean to stay with him. Think of your family. Think of me." I pulled my hand free, lifting my chin. "You never once thought of me. Why should I start now?" His face paled. He had no answer. From across the hall, Caelum's gaze found mine, protective and sharp. One look was enough to send Edwin retreating, humiliated. That night, in the quiet of Caelum's study, I sank into a chair by the fire, exhaustion heavy in my bones. "They're all scrambling," I murmured. "My family. Edwin. Even the nobles who never remembered my name." Caelum poured 2 glasses of wine, handed one to me. "Let them scramble. Wolves don't bow to sheep." I laughed softly, taking the glass. "You and your wolves." He smirked. "You like it." I did. More than I could ever admit. As the firelight flickered across his face, I realized with aching clarity, I wasn't just free. I was finally alive. And those who once ignored me, family, fiancé, all of them, could only watch from the shadows, gnawed by regret, while I stood at the side of the man who had seen me when no one else dared. The Wynthall estate had never looked so small. I stood at its gates once more, though not as the daughter who had left in silence. Caelum's carriage gleamed in the sunlight behind me, his crest visible for all to see. The servants bowed as I passed, their eyes darting nervously between me and the towering figure at my side. When I entered the hall, my family was already waiting. My father straightened his coat with false dignity, my mother's lips trembled as though she had rehearsed some fragile plea. My brother looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "Olivia," my father began, voice strained. "You've changed." "No," I said softly. "I've simply stopped being what you wanted." My mother stepped forward, wringing her hands. "We were wrong, child. We should have seen your worth. But it's not too late. If you'll only come back, we can mend what's broken." "Too late," Caelum's voice cut through the air like a blade. They all flinched as he stepped forward, his presence filling the room with raw authority. "You had years to cherish her. You threw her aside as though she were nothing. And now, you want to claim her because others see what you were too blind to grasp?" My father's face hardened. "You speak as though you know our family." "I know Olivia," Caelum said. His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. "That is enough." Then Edwin entered. His steps echoed sharply against the marble, his expression torn between desperation and rage. "Olivia," he said, voice raw. "Don't do this. Don't throw yourself away on him. You were meant to be mine." The laugh that burst from me startled even myself. "Meant to be yours? Edwin, I spent 14 years waiting for you to see me. You never did. You never cared." His eyes flashed. "Because you were weak. Because you clung to me without pride. But now you've changed. You shine. Olivia, I can't stop thinking about you. We can start again." I took a step closer, my voice low, steady. "You love the idea of someone worshipping you, not me. You want me now because you've lost me. And that is something you will never have back." His hand twitched, as though he might reach for me, but Caelum was already there. He moved between us with lethal grace, his eyes cold as winter steel. "Touch her," he warned, "and I will end you before you take your next breath." Edwin paled, fury and humiliation twisting his features. But he said nothing more. Silence settled. My family's regret lay heavy in the air, almost suffocating. I looked at them one last time. "I gave you my whole life," I said quietly. "And you cast it aside. Now I belong to myself. And to the man who saw me when none of you did." I turned, never once looking back. Outside, the crisp air filled my lungs as though I were breathing for the first time. Caelum's hand was warm around mine, anchoring me. "You were magnificent," he murmured. I smiled faintly. "I only spoke the truth." He stopped me on the steps, turning me toward him. His gaze burned, but his touch was gentle as he cupped my face. "They will regret you forever," he said. "But I will cherish you every day until my last breath." The world fell away as his lips claimed mine, fierce, unyielding, yet tender in ways that unraveled me completely. My fingers curled into his coat, pulling him closer, no longer caring who might see. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was chosen. I was loved. And this time, I wasn't letting go.